Welcome back. Now let's continue with our coverage around the return of South Africa's fallen soldiers from the DRC. You might remember 14 SANDF members were killed in the city of Goma in fighting with M23 rebels. In fact, we were told that the troops were sent there as part of a peacekeeping mission under MONUSCO and SEMI-DRC. Their remains are said to be handed over to their families at the Air Force Base in Swartkop. That's actually in Pretoria. It's where we find SABC News reporter Khayelihle Khumalo, who joins us now live. And Khayelihle, we know the main ceremony really kicks off at around 6 p.m. tonight, but I can imagine there's a whole lot more movement where you are there now. What are you able to tell us?
Well, certainly, and a very somber mood here in Centurion, where we're positioned. It is indeed a vantage point just outside the Swartkop Air Force Base. And obviously, it's been a long-awaited moment for the families of these troops who finally just came back in South Africa. And obviously, the country had to collaborate with a number of countries. There were quite extensive negotiation behind the scenes to make sure that they do get a safe passage, especially from that restive parts of the Democratic Republic of Congo. But really to shed more light in terms of this very arduous journey, we're joined by Admiral Shabalala from the SANDF. So once again, Admiral, thank you so much for your time. And I suppose a very big question is a confirmation. Are the troops finally back in the country?
Our heroes, our fallen heroes are finally back in the country. They arrived last night. And today it will be an act of solemn and respectful, where we are offering a dignified send-off to say to our peacekeepers and farewell and hand over them to their families, so that we afford the families a closure and a sense of peace to know that their sons are finally back at home.
And just once again, Admiral, I mean, obviously the Commander-in-Chief is expected to be here, the President of the Republic of South Africa, President Ramaphosa. Take us through to the proceedings. It's a repatriation ceremony, but there'll be a memorial service, and fairly heart-wrenching moment for the families as they'll be coming to terms with the reality that their loved ones are no more.
Today, as we are handing over them, the Commander-in-Chief will be present to have an opportunity to finally hand over the mortal remains of the soldiers. The way, in terms of our military tradition, we are doing this in a very dignified way, a respectful way, just to show that these heroes did not die in vain. They died in the ultimate sacrifice of the country. We do it in two ways, where we are sending them officially through a ceremony, which is the ceremony is normally afforded to a person that has sacrificed for the country and served well, especially in this time around. These were peacekeepers. Therefore, we do this in honor to them and in honor to thank the family for affording us these heroes who have really showed that they can die for South Africa, they can die for peace. So the memorial basically is to remember their memory, to put back and try to calm the nation, but more or less to ensure that they are always going to be remembered. And that is the way. Hence, we have a full military honors that the Chief of the Army will coordinate, since most of these members came from the SA Army. He will be tasked in all the units to ensure that these heroes are given a dignified, respectful funerals.
Admiral, obviously, I may imagine it may still be an operational matter and a very restive, fluid, unpredictable territory. What about those who are still trapped in Goma, Sake? Do we know the way forward? Do we know if they're getting the essentials? I mean, especially with all sorts of reports coming out from that part of the DRC.
Look, the situation is still volatile. But what is encouraging is that our soldiers are still with their weapons. Although the situation is tense, they are still surrounded by this enemy. But what is very critical is that at least they are in possession of their weapons, and the situation is getting better by the day. And we hope that all the political processes will eventually culminate into a peaceful resolution where, as we heard, that there was a summit which then tasked the chief that are involved, Chief of Defense Forces, to ensure that there's a ceasefire. So all those processes are part of the process to bring back the peaceful resolution. But as soldiers, ours is to able to defend ourselves if attacked. So ours is basically to fight and enforce peace, as our mandate initially was to enforce peace.
Before we let you go, Admiral, you have some voices here in South Africa saying, well, why can't they just withdraw, come back home? But obviously we know of the responsibilities. I mean, President Cyril Ramaphosa says South Africa's future is inextricably linked with that of the African continent. So it's in the interest of South Africa to see peace prevailing all over the continent. But what do you make of the voices that are saying just withdraw?
The voices have to understand that as serving members, as soldiers, as the military, we follow the direction from the political side. If the political decisions are taken to say we must withdraw, then we shall withdraw. But at the moment, no such decision has been taken. So as soldiers, we don't have opinions. As you know, we are a very disciplined and a professional force. We are under civil command.
And are you still well equipped, Admiral?
We are still well equipped. Our soldiers are in possession of their weapons, and they know how to use them. They've been trained professionally to use them. So ours, as I indicated, is that if attacked, we will defend ourselves.
All right, Admiral, thank you so much. Of course, I and Admiral Khayelihle, they're just giving us a snapshot, really, in terms of the events leading up to today, but also the significance around this particular ceremony. Of course, 6 p.m. is going to be the culmination point. That's where we're expecting the repatriation ceremony to get underway. But of course, there'll be a memorial service, but also emphasizing that for now, they will remain there. Of course, as you know, just a couple of days ago, we saw this very unprecedented summit where the leaders from SADC and the East African community met in Dar es Salaam. And there was a very clear directive that the defense force chiefs from these countries should meet in terms of ensuring that there is a cessation of hostilities, but also allowing humanitarian aid as well, among other things. So with that, back to you in studio.